Alright guys, so in this video I'm going to be talking about, do you need an actual degree to own a childcare center? So if this is what you're thinking about, if you're thinking about starting a childcare center and you don't know, should I go to college, should I not go to college, this is going to be the video for you, because I'm going to be talking about everything when it comes to ownership and starting your own childcare program and what those credentials look like. So stay tuned. I'm gonna get right into it because in this video I'm going to talk about, do you need to go to college to have a daycare center? And I get this question so many times. Someone asked it here on our YouTube channel and I was like, I'm gonna make a video about it, because this is one of the biggest things that stop people from actually starting their business, not knowing what's necessary. And so the answer directly to that question is no, you do not need a degree to own a childcare center, okay? But that question and no is twofold, and I'm gonna break it down as to why you don't necessarily need a degree to own a childcare center, but you may need a degree to operate a childcare center. And you may be like, well, that's the same thing, but it's not. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is, when you're thinking about, do you need a degree to own a childcare center? The answer is no, because you can start any business without that degree. There's so many people I know that are successful entrepreneurs that are just the owner of their daycare center. They are not the actual director. Okay, and that's just like in any industry. So you can open up a barbershop, you can open up a daycare center. If you don't have a license to open up a barbershop, that means you're going to do what? Hire somebody with that license as that manager for that barbershop. You can start a daycare center and you may own the daycare center and own the business, but you don't have the degree. So what does that mean? You will hire someone with that degree to be the director or manager, which is required by the state to have that degree. And truth be told, guys, there are so many different state regulations. And so when I make this video with the disclaimer that you want to check your specific state regulations, right? Because, for example, in the state of Pennsylvania, you only need an associate's degree to be the director of the daycare center, not the owner. The owner doesn't need a degree at all. The owner really just needs the finances to fund the business and manage the, the profits and the loss and all that stuff to keep the business operating. But you will need some director, and that director in so many different states. Your state, you may not need a director that has a degree, but in another state, you may need a director that has a degree, and it's what type of degree. Okay, so I want to make that as my second pillar that I talk about. When you think about the type of degree, you want to make sure that you're understanding that it doesn't just have to be a degree in early child education or child development. It could be in a related field. So sometimes your degree can be in social work, it can be in human services, it can be a related field. And guess where's the best way to check? Your actual state regulations. So if you're thinking about starting a childcare center, the first thing, and I always teach this, that's like one of the biggest things I teach in the Childcare Startup University self-paced course that we offer, is I teach the business of childcare and how to pass those inspections in our startup course. But one of the things I talk about, step number 2, is check your state regulations, because your state regulations is like the Bible. It's going to tell you what degree you need, whether you need a degree, whether the director needs a degree, whether the director doesn't need a degree. But you really, really want to make sure that you understand the difference between being an owner and being a director. Okay, so I want to break down what is the difference between being an owner and being a director. An owner is somebody that starts the business literally on paper, LLC, S Corp, C Corp, nonprofit, whatever is your tax structure that you're choosing. That is what the owner's responsibility initially is, to, start the actual business on paper, fund the business, create the business bank account, and then you're in charge of all and responsible for all of the expenses and all of those things. You're in charge of the hiring, right? And getting the program on the day-to-day. Now, if you do not have a degree and your state requires that your director, because you have to have a director no matter what state you're in, might I let you know that. You have to have a director no matter what state you're in for a center-based program. For a family-based program, it's totally different, okay? So for a center-based program, yes, you will need to have a degree. You will need to have a director in order to, have a childcare center. But this is where it goes in. Some states may say your director only needs X amount of experience. They don't need a degree. Some states may say, like in our state of Pennsylvania, they may say if you have a bachelor's degree, you only need 1 year experience. If you have an associate's degree, which is the minimum standard in Pennsylvania, you may need 2 years experience. So it's all based on your individual state regulations, but you as the owner are in charge of making sure that you have that director with that required credential if it's required for your state at any given time. Because let's say that you don't have a director, or that director quits, or whatever the case like that may be, then you're constantly in a cycle of the same way you're trying to find teacher, you need that manager with that credential. So that's why it's a twofold answer, and that's the difference between just being an owner and being a director. Some people only just want to be a director, so they don't want they don't want the financial responsibility of paying taxes and paying payroll and, you know, keeping the business flowing and generating money and all. They don't want that responsibility. Some people only want the responsibility of just being a director, right? They're managing the staff, they're managing the children, and they meet with their owner to get the funds that they need to run the business. Okay, so that's the difference between being a director and being a owner. Owner, you are responsible for everything under the sun. And just because you're not the director, best believe as that owner, you still need to know how to operate a child care program. You don't need a degree to learn that, right? You need to know, when am I opening? When am I closing? What ages am I accepting? What's my tuition gonna be? What's my late fees gonna be? Your director is coming in the door assuming that you have these things laid out so they can do their job, and that is manage the day-to-day operations. So do your director actually need to have a degree? It's based on your state, I will say. But if they do need to have a degree, like many states, you do have to have a degree, whether it's an associate, a bachelor's, or a director credential or a certificate, then it's your responsibility as the owner to constantly always have someone in place with those credentials to operate in compliance by the state, your child care program. Now, my last thing I want to talk about, guys, is going to be something that is like, I get this all the time in our coaching program, and it's like, Ms. Dom, what are the benefits of, you know, going to school, getting my degree, or not going to school, getting my degree, right? And the answer is just very simple. Like, when you own a childcare program such as myself, I consider myself, I'm the owner, director, operator. So I'm not just the owner, right? And one of the reasons why, and it's not just me, so I'm a little bit younger. So yes, I went to college right after I graduated from high school for free on a scholarship. So I went right to college, got my degree, which is, they say, is average thing to do, right? But that doesn't mean that that's always the right thing to do, because I didn't learn anything except how to be a great teacher. I did not learn how to be an awesome business owner or a leader or any of those great good things when I was getting my my bachelor's degree in early child education and becoming a certified teacher. I learned how to teach and how to educate, but I didn't learn how to be a business owner and or a leader. Okay, so I'm gonna throw that disclaimer in there. But one of the things I always say is that you have to ask yourself, is this for you? Do you only want to be an owner? Do you want to be a director? Do you want to be an owner, director? And many times I find that one of the reasons why I went to school to get my degree, but really, I'm going to give you an example, and we're going to talk about this in our new CEO Circle Club that's coming out. My mom and I, we're going to be doing monthly coaching every single month, but this is one of the things we're going to be talking about is that degree. And so one of the things I never forget she shared with me is, I'm going to stay as a family daycare, which doesn't require a director at all because you're in your home and it's a limited amount of children that you could care for in a family daycare. But I'm going to stay in my family daycare, and while I'm in my family daycare, I'm going to go back to school, right? Allow the accreditation program to pay for that school and take my 2, 3, or 4 years to get my degree while I have my family daycare. So when I actually get my center, I don't gotta spend $40,000, $30,000, $50,000 to have on salary a director at any given time. And I don't have to depend on anybody, right? So if any of you guys are business owners, or any of you guys may be thinking about starting a childcare program, one of the biggest things is always maintaining staff. You cannot operate a child care center without a team, or any business really without a team. But in early childhood, you have to have certain people in place for the child staff ratio and all of those things. And so I didn't, and my mom didn't want to go through, oh, she quit, now I gotta rush, and the state is on my head about getting somebody with a credential. Why? Because I can step right in place with our own degree. And so it really allows you to have the flexibility with not depending upon someone with that degree. So this is where coming up with the strategy in place, and this is something that we talk about, in the Childcare Startup University course, but this is also something that I share with people that just book a regular like 2-hour mastermind session with me on the strategy, because starting your business is not the same for everyone. Right? Here's an example. So when we branched out and expanded onto our 3rd location, it's like, I ain't had no money. All I had was a degree. I ain't had no credit. I have no money. And my mom was one of those people that's like, if you want to join in a family business, you got to come correct with the money. You got to really be part owner and join in financially. So my strategy was, let me go back to school, get my master's degree, and for free by the daycare, right? That's a whole accreditation program. Let me go back to school, get my master's degree for free, and the money that I would have used for tuition is what I'm already still paying back as an asset, is let me take that money and start a business with it. Right? So that's a strategy. And so those are some of the things that I talk about. You can always book a regular 2-hour mastermind session with me just to plan out your startup process, because your startup process is not the same as everyone else's. And if you are thinking about taking the Childcare Startup University course, the course is self-paced, but I offer a discounted 2-hour Zoom with me so we can plan out what that looks like for your individual needs and your lifestyle, with where you are, with what your money is, and kind of what your vision is for your own program. Okay, so those are some of the things that I always consider, and I tell people, do you need a degree to start a childcare program? No, but you will need someone in place that has that credential, whether it's an associate's, a bachelor's, or a master's degree, whatever your state requires, to be the manager or director with that credential. So the real question is, do I want to pay somebody a salary between $35,000 to $40,000 and $50,000, you know, based on the size of your program? Might I throw that in there, because your $50,000 salary may not be the same and you only have 20 children, right? So these are things you got to consider when you're thinking about your budget and your startup and your employees and your personnel. These are all things to consider when you're thinking about starting. These tips was super, super helpful for you. Let me know down in the comments, what are some of your thoughts now that you actually watched this video, and whether you're thinking about being your own director and owner, or just being an owner. What is your route that you're actually thinking about taking, and what are some challenges that you find yourself, you know, up against as you're planning out, you know, your startup, starting your childcare business? Let me know down in the comments, and make sure that you comment, like, and subscribe so that we can keep these videos coming. And if you honestly just need some advice, don't hesitate to book a 2-hour mastermind session with me, or you can always book a 1-hour clarity call. Stay tapped in and stay connected.